her own line item?
Yeah, we added her this year on page 61, early childhood coordinator. Well, it doesn't fit all of that, but.
Yeah.
What number?
So she's in student services.
Right. Student services is not all special ed. Student services is our things that, right.
There she is.
Student services has 504 in it. TAG, it's not, student services is not special ed.
But student
Only.
services falls under Beth Robbins.
No, special ed falls under Beth
So,
Robin.
well, I'm sorry, Director of Student Services is Mr. Johnson.
Human resources and student
So she
services.
falls under Mr. Johnson. I would say if our goal with this list, just like the special ed list, is we're trying, and that flow chart or organizational chart that I was asking from Beth Robbins, we're trying to get a handle on the number of people in the building. Because when we go out to a public meeting and we say there's 17 people, and people say, no, there's 21, and, we're going off a list that we have, and sometimes that makes us look foolish when we say 17, but there's 21 people sitting there. So, whether they're paid contractor or not, if you could put them on the list and identify them as independent contractor, if they are, but if this is salary that's on 5112.98, that's not salary, that's,
That's salary. That's the salary from general fund. She also does
Oh, yeah, the even start,
the even start, which salary comes out of grant money also.
and also from the Grouse Student Fund. So her salary is from 3 different sources.
Ken, do you also want the tutors who work out of central office listed on here
Well,
too? Because
it's-
those are other bodies that are physically
it's
present.
just,
That's our
it's hard,
alternative.
because what people say constantly is that Mission Avenue is swelling at the walls and there's people falling out of open doors, because there's just so many people. And then we go to a city meeting, and we say to the Board of Finance or City Council or the mayor, like I said the other day, that we're down to 18 people on Mission Avenue. And he has people telling him that there's close to 35 or 36 people on Mission Avenue. And it would just be beneficial for me in having that conversation with someone to be able to say, wow, all right, you count the 9 tutors and you count the parking attendant, and just kidding, we don't really have a parking attendant. But, we could use one because it's kind of hard to get in and out of there. But, it's just easier for us. The point is it's hard to combat some of the discussion that goes on outside of this board without having it. And as it took a while to get the other one, don't really want to pull teeth, just want to get a list of everybody that's in the building so that when we're asked, we can say, we have a number. I mean, it's just because, people, I said it at the beginning, a couple meetings ago, people still believe that Midgeon Avenue is 43 employees.
Do they understand that Midgeon Avenue is the site of our alternative school?
Right,
They
do you
don't,
literally
but
want me to
that's-
list the number of kids we have in there too?
I would
I mean,
like,
that changes.
I
do you
would
know?
like to know the number of people that work at Midgeon Avenue by department. Now, if the grant writer is covered under student services, and student services is Mr. Jocelyn's department, then Mr. Jocelyn's department up here, instead of saying human resource office, should say student service office, and should list everybody affiliated with student service office. And if,
And the account number.
right, and if you have people that are tutors and they're run out of Beth's office,
All over.
No, there's student services too.
No, there's,
Bill, then
The tutoring program is now.
What's that?
there's sped tutoring, there's expulsion
Right.
tutoring.
understand.
And a tutor could swoop in for 2 hours.
As
and
long
then
as we can
swoop out.
identify the person as being there, and, this
And
shows us the
What line
salaries.
item their salary comes from, because then we can
That's
add
simple
up.
enough, but as long as we know that every tutor that walks in the building doesn't have an office and isn't spending 40 hours a week there.
I understand that,
Okay.
but when you're looking at a salary line item and you have somebody in there at $95,000 and you have somebody in there at $6,000, it would be pretty easy to
could probably
assume they're
figure
not
it
a
out.
full-time have their own office. You know, would just make our lives easier.
To
in the
put a
public.
dollar amount to a tutor
Just
is an
list tutor.
arbitrary number.
Then just list tutor. Just so that we know they're
Okay.
there.
Well,
Just so that
I was
people can
gonna
see.
put tutor A, B, C, and D,
That's fine.
That's fine,
Right,
because I don't know their names.
Okay,
that's okay.
right.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
I sympathize. When this guy goes in front of the Board of Finance, they're gonna ask him to account for every penny here. They're gonna, hard
Yeah.
questions. And he can't look like a fool. And when they feel like that these numbers are rubbery, what they do is what I think anybody in their situation would do, who's ultimately responsible for the finances of the city. They're gonna pull back and they're just gonna arbitrarily throw a number because they don't know. If we don't know, how can they know? And if they can't know, they're gonna do what they've done in the past. They're gonna pick a round number and they're gonna say, that's it. And then we're gonna accuse them of being irresponsible, and the responsibility is on us to provide really accurate, transparent numbers. That's it. That's all it is, you know? Because I hear this all the time. I've been hearing it ever since I've been sitting there. I've been hearing this all the time. No, there's a lot more people there. And you say, no, I know, because, and then you get people on the inside who say, well, you're actually wrong. You are. And you have no response and you lose your credibility. So,
okay.
Now, just on the special ed too, at Midget Avenue, my understanding there was 3 secretaries in,
One retired in March and it has not been replaced.
okay, so that position is not in the budget for next year.
Correct. That was part of the cut
That's a couple.
The cut, but it's also not on the organizational chart.
for next year.
Because she's not there
Because she's not
today.
there now.
She hasn't been there for a month.
Somebody else is doing it now.
But that would be the squares with the X's through that show a position that was
That-
eliminated.
that-
Which is on the chart.
Which is
Not
on
on
the
the
chart.
It's
And
not
she's
on.
not in Michigan.
On Department of Special Education Organizational Chart, 2004 to 2013.
Yep,
It shows 4 secretaries, there's 2 here now,
Right, that's correct.
for 12-13.
Because she was taken out a month ago, so there's only 2 left.
When was the 4th one taken out?
A couple of years ago.
So that shouldn't be in the 12-13, that should be in,
no, what we were trying to show in the special education department, they did list years eliminated for the position, so that you could see there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 psychologists in 2010, 2 of them were eliminated. There was, I don't know, the social worker was eliminated in 2010. Supervisor of SPED, 2 supervisors of special ed were eliminated in 2010, and 1 in
Right.
2008.
the secretaries just weren't marked.
They're just not marked.
Okay, so it includes the one that was,
Just,
okay. Makes sense, thank you.
You still going?
Yep.
So if we look at account 5564, regular ed tuition,
Where are
in
you?
the expense annual budget by account classification
What
report.
page number?
I don't have page numbers.
No, the new ones are just get to.
What was the account number?
Oh, okay.
5564 under tuition,
Regular ed?
regular ed tuition. I would anticipate that that tuition would line up somehow with this handout tonight. It's showing regular ed tuition for the upcoming year. For this year, it's showing regular ed tuition to be 42,300, and next year, 138. So who's in,
What, hang on, what, you're under the tuition, the 560s on the book.
Yes.
yes.
Okay, and now
looking
you're
at
going up
No, this.
This handout we got tonight
Oh,
for regular ed tuition.
okay.
So I guess I don't understand how we have 42.3 and 138 here, but then when I'm looking at the cost down here for regular ed tuition, it's, no, all these up here are regular. Where are these?
The regular ed tuition on the bottom, the 138,000,
Yeah,
that is what we added this year. That and the one right above it for possible, for the mandate that's gonna possibly be in, that we have to start paying for all regular ed tuition. We talked about that
Yeah.
a couple meetings, okay, that's what that is. Now, this piece of paper, the regular ed tuition, public,
It's about 10.
is the top one, the tuition public.
yeah.
That's what that would be under. But that also, that number also takes into account if we have, because some of the students we have go to, say, Wamogo, but they also get special ed services. If the bill comes in under that, it's all charged to that line item. I mean, you have 367 plus 95 plus 36. I mean, that's,
Plus
that's coming right in at that number.
Yeah.
So what's your question?
No, now I see it up here.
Yeah, the
I was
two
just looking at the
lower
two
ones,
additional
it's the
ones.
two, those two lower ones, we can take out if the board wants.
So what we should
Those
do,
are possible mandates.
we should take this sheet that you handed out today that says regular ed tuition, and we should make that tuition public, so that it lines up with the book.
Right.
Sure, yeah, I mean, that's what it's called in,
In
In
the
the
new
New
world,
World
it's,
report, yeah.
it's tuition public.
right.
But you could still have special ed students attending the public school.
Yeah, you
paying
could,
tuition for
right.
it. It's not under special ed.
But no, I'm just trying to line it up, because this says regular ed, we go to the book for regular ed, it says 138, but we've got $500,000 in it.
Right.
So we're just trying to make it make sense.
Okay,
You're not, huh?
It's kind of- that's what we're trying to answer the question.
looking at the special ed teachers by site, it's my understanding that we have 2 voices classrooms running at Vogel, but we're only accounting for 1 voices teacher. Is that because one is paid under grant?
No, what page are you on?
I've lost track now. That's so many sheets. This was, this thing that came out last week, the Midgeon and district-wide
Right, because
sheet.
that one right there was the new one added, because we budgeted it last year under district-wide, under the special student services. We put one more person, one more
Yeah.
position, and we added it there last year.
So the other one is where?
How, is she's in the site, the Vogel site. Because last year we didn't know, when we were going through the budget process, we weren't gonna put that second classroom at Vogel. We went back and forth with that for a while.
So that person's just in the, under teacher salaries on page 38?
In student services, page
Oh, I went to
38.
Vogel Wetmore. You said they were carried at Vogel Wetmore?
One of them is, yep, that one, the voices teacher would be one of the teachers under teacher,
All right,
under
and
Vogel.
then the other one's
And
on
then the other
59?
one is in student services,
59? No. 60.
61
Yeah.
under teacher.
An example is, if we get a budget this year, or when we get a budget this year, and say if we can add the preschool program that was requested with the 3 paras for the special ed program. Right now, we don't have it housed anywhere. It's not in any, it's special ed, but we don't know which school will house it in, so it won't be listed under a particular school. It'll be, come out in student services, or it could also become district-wide.
But it'll still have an account number attached to it.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
So we
But
know
it's-
what cost center it goes to.
Right, but it's not assigned, if you're looking at something by a school site, we haven't figured the site where it's gonna be yet.
But if you're looking for cost center and you want your cost center to add up to your total,
Right.
it's gotta be under that
It'll
cost
be-
center.
It'll be under special education, teacher, pairs.
So is the same true for the REACH programs that we have running? Because we have on this list one district-wide REACH teacher.
That was added last year. Those are the special education teachers, the programs that we had 3 existing programs that we doubled the capability to double the size of services. And that's how we were able to bring students back in.
So then these positions on this midget and district-wide don't really fall under,
No, because when it was asked, when I first emailed Midgen to you, it was asked, what about all the district-wide people? So then I gave you a list of Midgen plus
but that's
the
not,
salaries that are under district-wide, and that's what you're looking at. That district-wide,
no, I have midget only.
that district-wide is under student services in your budget book.
But these people are really placed in buildings.
They're all in, yeah, everyone's in, except for the Forest Court's a building, but, yeah, they're all in buildings. It's just whether they serve more than one building,
Right.
or if it's a district-wide program.
Or where their home building is.
Yeah, because you could have a district-wide program, but it's housed in a specific school.
So to me, it's more important the cost center, 'cause, so then you can compare each individual sites, and they'll add up to the total cost center. Meaning, say, administration, 51101. So if you add up all the sites, they should equal the total 5111, no matter where they are. All that should total up on the total
Cross,
page.
yeah, cross.
Right. That to me is where I'm having difficulty making them fit.
That's why I was asking for a total sheet in this
Yeah.
format, so
Well,
that
we have a total sheet, but it still
they
doesn't
were done at different
because,
times.
right, and, but also because under the central office and district-wide, you don't have cost centers, so you don't know where they are. So you're trying to see where they fit in.
Yep. Do you have any others? John, do you have anything specific? Carl? Chris? Helen?
I think once we get the new, it'll figure, I do have one question, where is the accountant housed? What number?
That is in district-wide, it's Midgen Avenue.
Yeah, but what?
It's under
center
the
number?
secretaries of district-wide.
Okay. So it's under clerical then?
It's under clerical, it's
Okay.
one of those things that's always been under there, even though
Okay.
she's not clerical, but it's just always been
But it's-
under there.
Right, okay.
She's not
So
part of
as
the
soon
budget.
as
Nope.
we get the cost centers, it's gonna be, all my questions will probably be answered.
Okay.
Andrew, do you have anything, any sheets you want to talk about?
I have a question, just on, I hear that copiers at the high school are malfunctioning. Can you tell me, we're fixing them in this year's budget, or?
We call immediately, and they'll come out within 24 hours to fix it. We have offered instructional opportunities on how to use the copiers several times. They're more than willing to come out and train faculty and how to use it.
Okay. I'm just concerned about, is it a big expense, I mean, or is it?
No,
not
part of the
a part-
contract.
okay, so nothing that we
It's
have to
not.
worry about for next year's budget?
Yep.
Daniel? Paul?
Yeah, for the next meeting, I would like to see, maybe it exists, but I don't know where it is. Just to track, I think this is somewhat in line with what Ellen was asking, just to track the retires, staff question, as a one sheet, just, we have that?
Yep. Well, we have a,
The
For the
new
high school,
hires,
or-
yeah, literally everybody that's being added this year, who is leaving this year for one reason, or retiring, or just not having a contract renewed. I'd just like to see that in one sheet, and a dollar amount for what those positions
do you
are.
want, okay, leaving this year, do you want it
The plus or minus.
projected, because depending on what the budget is, we could have,
Yeah.
anywhere from 20 to 50 teachers who will have to be,
You mean
let go.
based on this proposed budget?
Based on this proposed budget, yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, we've
Yes, yes,
projected,
yes.
but we don't know what the true number is until all is said and done in terms of people making decisions about next year. And hires. We can predict.
Right, okay.
We can-
Yes.
Can we also get, what it would cost to have all the secretaries put back to what they were before they were reduced?
All back to full-time?
And they would be under the clerical cost center, correct?
Correct, at each school.
At each school, correct.
Or in the summer?
Yeah, I'll ask you after, I gotta talk to you about the summary. Is that so unclear?
Because I know that we've heard a lot that the schools are really hurting because they don't have the secretaries in it. My
Danielle, didn't
feeling
we-
is if there's gonna be savings because we're not gonna have the,
Yeah.
um,
I think we had that in the
Safety
original.
measures or whatever.
original
Yeah, we-
proposal.
Yeah,
We,
they were in,
at the very beginning, we projected what that would cost, we'll just pull that back up
yeah,
for you.
please,
they
thank you.
should be on
'Cause it's,
the,
it's probably in here somewhere.
Yeah.
it is.
Somewhere.
Thank you. Yeah, by site too, so that we know,
Yeah. Yep. What happens
Where
to
they
the
are,
bottom
right,
line.
right.
Yep, Yep.
right.
Okay. Some things we have to think about. The areas where we made estimates by, I don't know if you want to do them by line item, or wherever you want it, Under stipends, 511.50. You have that? Oh, the stipends,
Do you want?
the 531,700. Now, these are, as we discussed last week, we have been putting estimated increases in every year, so that you don't have to go back to the Board of Finance or be personally responsible if it ever came to that.
Yeah.
That's right, I haven't got the other one.
Next time I'll probably fall.
And that,
We have an estimated $20,000 in that line item, if you look at it. That is an estimated increase that we're carrying in this budget. That we can make, that we can reduce that line item by 20,000. 5112.30. Clerical. We have an additional $25,000 in there for projected overtime.
No, retirees, because we have to pay out all of their sick and vacation time.
Oh,
So what would happen is
It's in-
we won't hire until we finish paying.
okay. We have an estimated 25,000 in there.
When you talk about these numbers, specifically, what are you, specifically, what are you actually reducing? Like you say, custodian, 25,000, what does that, where's that magic number come from?
I didn't get to that one yet.
Okay, well, then you're doing clerical now.
Right,
Okay,
custodian
so-
would be next. You want to talk about custodian?
No, tell me who the clerical person is.
It's projected if we get a retirement, we have to pay out all the sick days and sick time. So instead of replacing that position immediately, we would not replace that position until the salary equaled the money that had to be paid out.
And if someone gets to a retirement age, the amount of accrued sick and vacation comes out to about $25,000 that the district owes them.
We don't know if anyone's
Per
retiring
contract.
yet.
We have a hunch.
But we put it in,
We put, all these numbers are projections that are added every year to make sure that we're covered in line items that traditionally go up. And the reason why we put this was, the mayor came to us and asked us to take all of our conservative estimates out. And
and that's fine, except if it has some rational basis to actually reduce these numbers.
yeah, but he wants
Yeah, I
us to
understand what he
separate.
wants.
Well, this is the list that we have separated out of the estimates that we carried in what line items. And we as a board have to make a decision whether we feel we want to offer this savings to the Board of Finance, or we think these numbers have to stay in.
And my argument is, when Danielle and the superintendent put together this budget, they
Yes.
supposedly do zero-based budgeting. I mean, they go from scratch, they analyze every one of these line items, and they have a rationale and a reason for these numbers.
Yes.
So when you do this, without specifically talking about a specific clerical position or a specific custodian, whatever, I would like to have the details of why you're contradicting what they presented in their rationale for projecting those numbers.
We're not contradicting their rationale.
We're providing these numbers.
Can I jump in quickly, Andrew? My understanding from last week is the fact that by state statute, the 10 members of this board are guaranteeing whatever the budget is. So by doing the prudent thing, which is what Danielle and the superintendent have done the previous 4 years, is the same thing as we do at home. We assume that fuel oil is going to be $4.25 a gallon for next year, not the $3.75 it is this year. We budget accordingly. If it's less and we have a little bit left in the kitty, if it's comes in where our budget is, we're still safe. We're not trying to throw it on a credit card. What the city is asking is the mayor saying, well, don't worry about it. Assume you're not going to have any increases, and we'll give you our credit card in May of next year. But if they don't give us their credit card, it's up to the 10 of us to pony up 50 grand apiece to make up the difference here, which I am not at all comfortable with. I'd rather be prudent. I've always measured twice, cut once. You don't sit there and say,
Always
oh
cut
my.
twice and measure once. What are you talking about?
Well,
What the mayor is asking us to do is they do what he calls a 5-year average. He takes the last 5 years of a line item and averages that out, and that's the projection. He'll look at the last 5 years of a line item, and he'll say, I had 7,000 left, I had 2,000 over, and he looks at where he was, and if, he said it to us this morning, if there's $45 is the average, he'll cut $45 from that line item. What I was trying to explain to him is, when it comes to special education, and the fact that tuitions at these state-run facilities go up when they decide they're gonna go up. It's not necessarily, if they need more money, they just raise the tuition. So we can't really just average the last 5 years, because if we see a trend, we budget for that trend. If we see that, it increased 200,000 this year, 400,000 that year, 600,000, you can assume it's gonna be 800,000 the next time. He has asked of us to try to help the taxpayers out, to not do that. So what this $531,700 represents is that amount of money that we were carrying in this budget to cover what we believe to be historical increases. Like we can prove why we have this money in there, but they're asking us to remove it. So that's what this list is.
And some of these, we have some discretion during the course of the year. If times were such that we needed to make cuts, we can do it, custodian, clerical. But when you talk about the special ed tuition number, that number, even I would always like to cut it, it's just that it's so dictated, mandated by law. It's not like you can plead with them, can't we do it for a little cheaper? It's like, that's the number. And so I'm always skeptical of ever with that number, but some of these others I can understand.
Just so
that.
you have some idea, our out-of-district tuition for children with special needs to, say, state programs has been averaging 3% increase each year.
Right.
So,
When something goes up 5 years and you take the average, it's
You're-
not
you're-
gonna be enough.
Well, no, you're below what your
Right,
current
you're
year is.
below what
And
your
that's,
current year's gonna
we
be.
were trying to explain that the way they're budgeting versus, a variable we have absolute zero control over. I mean, if the courts come in and move a kid, DCF places a kid somewhere, you pay it. It is what it is.
And that's the point I'm making with the clerical and the custodians. We're not gonna be violating the law if we, at some point,
Right.
have to lay off a custodian. Even natural gas, we could probably figure a way of reducing that.
Well, can we go down the list
Yeah,
and
okay.
explain
I'm
what they all
just-
are? So that
okay.
everybody knows, and then, that's what I was trying to do,
Okay.
was, so your custodian, Danielle, was,
The same as the
Retirement.
secretary.
all right, Social Security, Medicare?
We seem to be in the surplus each year, so we'll write it closer too.
All right, and retirement contributions is the same?
Correct.
Workers' comp would be the same?
Yeah, we've been receiving refunds each year, actually, because we just have a good trend.
Okay. Now, you, public DCF special ed tuition.
That one and the next one will be the proposed mandates, that we have to pay tuition for regular ed students, so.
Yep. Well, the out-of-district pre-K, according to the bill that made it out of the education subcommittee that went to the floor, is going to theoretically cover out-of-district pre-K for this upcoming year, but not the year after.
Okay.
In reading the latest ones that went out last Thursday that made it out of subcommittee.
Mm-hmm.
No, they're not final. I'm just saying that's, the other thing the mayor asked us was anything that we're planning on being an upcoming mandate, to not include it until it actually becomes a mandate, and then go to the city and show the public, all right, this is what happened, this is what it costs, and it has to come out of the rainy day fund or wherever it comes out of. So that's what those, the 130, the 120, and the 95.7 are all in that, correct? The regular ed tuition?
Correct.
So all three of those are estimates based on mandates that we've seen in potential legislation.
Correct.
You know, in building a budget, we really try to figure out what the state is maybe asking, requiring, you know, the following year. And and we've done that through the entire budget, so that we won't be caught short.
And the natural gas is because of our efficient year this year?
Yeah, Mr. Pacetta believes we could save more
And if we do our road.
by switching. Well, no, we go back and forth with oil and gas
Yep.
depending.
Okay. So it leaves us, as we come into next Monday's meeting, if we end up there, that we have this list of 531,700 that we have to decide if we want in, want out, partial in, partial out, and we have to let them know what we're doing as far as that. We don't have to have a decision tonight. Think about it when we finalize our number on Monday. We're gonna just hit this as a, we'll just address it, like, well, what do you wanna do?
Yeah, I spoke up in this last meeting, and I feel the same way. I understand where Board of Finance is going with this. I mean, you got $500,000 sitting here, and if we over budget in anticipation of something that doesn't happen, we got $500,000 sitting in there. So
Yes.
you can understand what they're thinking about in that regard.
Yes.
I'd be willing to buy into this, but the same condition. I would like to see something stipulated in writing from city council, whatever the appropriate
Board of Finance.
city agency is, that says, hold us harmless. I like a hold harmless stipulation. in the Board of Education.
I believe that if we decide to remove this from the budget, that will be part of our presentation to the Board of Finance.
But do we want it beforehand?
Yeah, like beforehand, I mean, I wouldn't
They're
want,
not,
They won't do
he
it.
said he's not gonna do it, so.
well,
They're not gonna give us anything in writing. We can identify them, and we can make our case, and say, we were asked to identify them.
Right.
We're gonna identify them, and we can say, we left them in, if you wanna cut them, we want some type of guarantee that we're not gonna be personally responsible.
correct,
You know,
correct.
it's just, this is identifying them. Again, next week we make the decision, keep them in, take them out, half in, whatever the group decides on.
And that brings us to 5%.
What's this, $500,000?
Yes.
From 7.8? 500,000 is not gonna get you from 7.8 to 5%. 2%.
No, it's,
It's with this, you get the 5%.
Mr. Chairman?
yeah, I'm sorry.
You're
yes.
ahead of
Yeah,
yourself.
yeah,
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
just a quick follow-up. I mean, was there a reason given, did you have a subsequent conversation of why they wouldn't issue us, or why they wouldn't give us a hold harmless stipulation?
When we had a discussion about removing these, we asked him for a hold harmless. He said that there's no way he can guarantee that they would do that. So we could go to the Board of Finance separately and ask them, but the mayor, when he was saying this, said, we've never left you in the past. They've always covered any deficit in the past. That he can't see any reason why they wouldn't in the future. But he said, as far as getting it in writing, he says, I don't believe that you're gonna be able to get it.
Well, the difference between now and in the past is the rainy day fund's been expended, city's broke, and there's $500,000 that somebody's responsible for.
Yes.
I don't want it to be me. I don't want it to be you.
I agree.
There is a big
You're
difference there.
technically only responsible for $53,107.
Correct, which is about gonna be my property tax, but. The rate we're going here.
But in practice, Andrew is right. We would find ways to save that money if we were going to have to pay it, which would mean we shut off all the electricity and kids sit by the window to do their work, et cetera, et cetera.
We'll save on natural gas, just keep on your mittens.
So I think we should, I mean, if we're gonna talk about this, I mean, do we have some consensus that some of these items we don't have a problem with, and some of these items?
Think on it, and we're gonna make that decision, because that's just when we have a number, we're just gonna say in or out. You know, what do you wanna do? This doesn't impact the rest of our going line by line through the superintendent's budget.
Okay.
That's just a standalone thing that the city asked us to do, so I was kind of keeping that as a, when we get done, we make a decision at the end of the budget, do we want them in or do we want them out? Do you have your second hand now? Did you pass it out? I'm sorry, hand out number 5. I've been doing it.
So using this same logic, did he say anything about the health insurance? I mean, I like the logic he used.
It is. Okay. In-depth review over the last week and a half, we have been able to tighten the belt in several areas. The first thing was looking at special education, a reduction of $90,000. It's a reduction in outside services, it's a reduction in psychologists, sign language.
Sign language,
Sign language.
Wilson
Wilson
reading,
reading, okay.
and then a behaviorist.
Wow, so I wasn't even close.
That's the professional services line?
Yeah.
Other professional services.
Yes.
things like that.
What's
Totaling
the,
90.
what's the number?
90,000.
No,
Oh,
no, hold
the,
on, I got it right here.
Cost center,
Yes,
Where it's built.
yeah, I know where it is on the site.
Isn't the Wilson program and students IEP?
Doesn't matter now, because for the past 3 years, we've been training our own teachers in-house, and we now have all special education teachers plus reading teachers trained in
So we
it,
wouldn't
so
be
that they can.
eliminating the program.
No, we're eliminating the person who we have to pay from the outside to come in and train us. It's a 2.5-year cycle for training. And next year, we'll just be doing, some teachers to be trainers of the training, so we'll have our own experts in-house, but it's a 3-year plan that,
5340.
All
The
of
cost
them?
code, no.
All three?
Yes, they're all under other professional services in 5340.
Sign language?
Sign language.
sign language.
They're independent contractors that have come in to help.
Yeah, we don't, it's,
So do you have someone in district that can sign?
we have a couple people, yes.
Yes.
Well, that might probably answer my question, but I'm wondering if we reduce this, are we at risk of having students going out of district?
No.
No, worst comes to worst, we would have to recontract with them. And then we would be looking at possible deficit next year in that line item.
So this is a break.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, if worst comes to worst, next September, we say freeze.
Right.
All right, the next one, Sue has a handout she's gonna give out to everybody of classes that's going to high school. Going back to subcommittee level, I remember Mr. Cavanero specifically stating that he would like to see the CNA program move forward at no expense to the district by finding areas within the school to save classes that aren't necessarily vital, but yet find a way to expand our current or future offerings. So we are gonna remove the CNA program unless they can find a way to fund it from within, by streamlining classes or, so we're gonna take that $70,000 off. Everybody okay with that?
What do you mean we're taking it on?
It's gone, it's out of the budget.
Yeah, these are reductions.
Yes,
But if they found by next Monday,
by August 20 whatever, when we start school, if they can do a realignment within the cost that they have by finding a course that is not overly attended or is a course that's not leading towards the curriculum that we want to go down, if they can realign and they find efficiencies to equal that 70,000 by eliminating courses that aren't necessary and adding these, then they can put it back in. We're just not going to fund the CNA program. We're not saying we're canceling the CNA program, we're not gonna fund it.
Would you like the background, because Mrs. Monaco has done a THS course review for the board, and also minimum staffing necessary to meet state graduation requirements. We have that information.
Well, we're gonna hand that out.
Can I make copies for minimum for time responsible?
So like we're saying, we're not canceling, we approved the CNA program as a program. We're just not gonna fund it on top of the existing budget. They can fund it within their means, they can more than have the class
They come back to the board
for,
for approval to whatever they're, we're doing a snapshot
Yeah.
as of today, when we do the budget.
Yep.
And as of this snapshot, there's no CNA program. If they want to, there's no funds in it, no money. So if they want the money to do it whenever they come forward, they'll have to then come and get the board's approval.
No, because
No.
we have your approval.
It's already been approved.
the course is approved.
No.
The only way, they'd have to come for approval if they were gonna transfer money from IT technology into teachers' salaries to add this program, they would have to go to budget and come to us. But if they're just using teachers in a different way within the building, we've already approved it as a program, it's part of the THS curriculum, we're just not going to fund it on top of our existing staff. So we're not adding staff for it. If they can fund it from within, have at it.
But what I'm saying is if they decide they want to eliminate a biology class and consolidate 3 biologies into 2 to make that money available, they come,
No.
where the, they
That's
don't.
management of the school, that's the principal and the assistant superintendent. If they can fit all 3 biology classes into 2, they should have already done it. But if they can do that, and that frees up a teacher to teach this, or an FTE, thank you, to teach this class, then they have that person in the budget. They have X number of bodies in the building.
The trickiest thing about it is every class is just .2, so you basically have to find 5 classes within the same area of certification in order to be able to free up a position to move it into this one. It's budgeted right now, it's not even an even match because it was budgeted as $20,000 contracted services, which is well below the market rate of any teacher that we have. And it included a full budgeting of all the startup materials and resources that would be necessary. And in the process of the investigation of that program, we found that there were many community organizations that were willing to donate products as well. So, I mean, it could be done without having to budget the full $70,000, but all along the way, we were told to budget the full amount as if, we were gonna have to be responsible for everything ourselves.
And now we're just basically telling them we're not going to fund it singularly, they have to find their means.
Yeah, and maybe if there's a grant or something out there, there's other ways of funding.
No, we wanted to fund it too also, realistically, which was to say, we didn't want this to just get this started, and we found some, economies to get it started, and then in year 2 and 3, we're suddenly stuck with, like a grant running out from this, there's suddenly a ramp up of the cost to maintain the program. Like a realistic number for what it would cost to start this and then maintain this program. And again, at this school improvement committee, it was always proposed as again, a value proposition, We've got so much money you spend on staff, how valuable is this program to this student body? And I think the board voted that this is a program that, has a real upside to it in the ways that the superintendent has already explained, possibly attracting outside students.
Right. From the bus company,
Danielle, did you put that all in teacher salary? Is that where you put it for the?
No, it's part of it's teacher salary, and the other part, there's part for
So where
instructional
did you-
supplies.
Where did you put it?
what line items is it?
What line items?
It shouldn't be.
CNA.
CNA.
That one is just in district-wide, and it's actually labeled CNA program, 70,000. So it was in one single place.